Welcome to the Spark series, where we ignite conversations with innovators, entrepreneurs, and changemakers, creating real impact. Our goal is to spark ideas, share journeys, and inspire action. My name is Jason Williams, CEO for the Society of Innovators at Purdue Northwest, and I'm excited to sit down with today's Spark series guest. Wade Breitzke is the founder and CEO of WeCreate, a full-service marketing agency using strategic insights paired with visual identity and brand storytelling to shape perception and inspire action. He's also the visionary behind Lower Lincoln, a hub in Valparaiso designed to spark collaboration and innovation. Wade's entrepreneurial journey began with 27 Entertainment and has grown to include award-winning leadership in branding and community development. Wade, thanks for joining us today. It's time we create a conversation.
Thanks, Jason. Looking forward to it.
So first, Wade, wanted to just learn a little bit more about yourself before we really dive into the business. So tell me, go back. What was your first job? Can you tell us about that?
I remember as a young person, probably 8, 9 years old, and my dad was in construction. My mom, to this day, still has a one-chair salon out of the house. So I kind of grew up in a small business family. And the first time I actually remember making real money, what I'll call my first job, was going on the construction site with my dad. We would be carrying cinder blocks up and down hills. I think he was just trying to keep us busy, But there was one actually particular job where he had me and my brothers. And I remember that day where I worked particularly hard because I thought it was kind of fun. I thought it was kind of interesting. I was up really high. I even remember working through lunch that day. And I remember at the end of the day, my dad paid my brothers $4 each and he paid me $5. And so that was my first real job. And I remember thinking opportunity follows hard work.
Yeah.
And so I remember that vividly.
Fantastic. So let's talk business now, Wade.
Great.
So kind of just briefly walk us through your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. So graduating high school, the goal was, how do I become a musician, right? And so how do I get out there and play music for people? And so I actually went to my cousin's wedding, and they said they moved their wedding around this DJ.
Okay.
And they're like, he's amazing. I know you're into music. You should meet him. He was an incredibly kind guy, very nice guy. But I still thought he was maybe a bit cheesy, right? And I thought wow, they moved their entire wedding around this one guy. They paid him a lot of money to show up that day. And he put his heart into that. So I started talking how'd you get into this? He's like, actually, I'm trying to get out. Are you interested in being part of what we have going on? From there, started DJing weddings. I was DJing probably 100 to 150 weddings a year. And I was turning down 150 a year. And I thought, wow, I could probably train someone else to do this too. Before we knew it, people needed video at these events. And so we started capturing content and creative at these events. And then the hotels and the venues saw the videos we were creating and said, can you make us some? And then after that, they said, well, actually, we don't really have a great functioning website. Could you redo our website? Sure, I can. And you go home, you Google, and you're like, oh, this is how to make a website. And then you just start hiring all the right people. So by the time 2013 came along, we launched WeCreate. And WeCreate was to start with a lot of photo, video all over the country. Got really fortunate where we were doing work for big Hiltons and Hyatts and Marriott's all over the country. And then the pandemic hit. 70% of our business left in a single day. We didn't know what we were going to do. But the only thing I wanted to do was not fire anybody. And so we got really scrappy. And I remember some of those entrepreneurs that I was inspired by thinking about how they were setting up their entrepreneurial environments. And that's where Lower Lincoln was born. And so we kind of went back to the roots, started cold calling every single thing, every single business I knew to say, what do you need? How can I help? And we scrapped just enough to get by and launched Lower Lincoln as an entrepreneur support organization. Began helping people commercialize their ideas. We're helping a lot more plateaued businesses than I realized. So people who have scaled their business to a certain extent and they just don't know what's next. And then a lot of people who are in multi-generational business where they're trying to figure out what succession looks like. We Purdue Northwest helped us out, did a survey, said that close to 60% of businesses are owned by people who are retirement ready. And 4 out of 5 of those don't have succession plans. And so now we're trying to figure out what does that look like? How do we help those people? The pandemic and losing all that business, we thought, oh gosh, what are we gonna do? But what had happened was now, years later, it was actually what set us free. It kind of opened our eyes to what we were really meant to be doing. It has landed us on the Inc. 5000 list 3 years in a row now. And so what we thought might have been the worst thing in the world ended up being the best thing for our business.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that journey. And let's talk about WeCreate.
Let's talk about
let's focus in on that. Again, starting out with WeCreate, right? As your own branding and marketing agency. Talk about your own journey with WeCreate. How did you define WeCreate's brand? What steps did you take to shape its identity and voice?
Yeah, absolutely. So where we started as far as shaping identity, and you don't even realize you're doing it at the time, but is really understanding what makes you different. I think that when you enter a market, it's easy to look at competitors in the space. It's easy to look at other people doing it and say, I'm going to do it that way. But really what's important is to own your voice, to own what you do differently. Yeah. I was actually doing a lot of subcontracting work for other agencies before starting WeCreate. And I saw all these things happening in the agency world that I just didn't quite agree with, which was things like, they wouldn't let me talk to the client. It ended up being really non-collaborative. And when you're non-collaborative, the work suffers. And when we were starting WeCreate, the idea was pretty simple. How do we collaborate better? How do we communicate better? And how do we make this a we? Okay, not a me. And if we can do that, we believe we can come up with a superior product. And turns out it's worked out so far. But really, in everything we do it with that idea of we.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Thank you for clarifying that. Let's talk about your market. You mentioned other agencies. Talk about how you position your agency. How do you make your offers stand out amongst the competition?
What makes us unique is that culture of we that we just talked about, but that's rooted in the ability to listen. I know it sounds silly, but it's like we listen better. We want to hear what people are really saying. Because our job is not necessarily to, you watch a Mad Men and you see these like brilliant campaigns that are birthed all you did was you listened to what the client said and you translated it into a frequency that could resonate with the client better and with their audiences better. And so for us, it's kind of a 3-step process where you're listening and you're getting really, really clear. Translate it in a way that resonates with the audience in a perfect manner. And if it doesn't, iterate, throw your bad ideas out, don't have too much pride, and then you're gonna start converting at a much higher level.
You touched on this a little bit, but go back to your very first customer. Starting out a business, you have to go from 1 to 10 customers to 100 customers.
Yeah.
I guess talk about a little more the nuts and bolts of how did you kind of scale that growth to achieve that?
That's a good question. So I think that what we always focused on was the work first. Yeah. And so what we didn't want to do is just, to your point, scale to 100 clients and then those clients would be gone forever because you did a mediocre work, check the box and move on. And so for us, it was all around how do I make sure that I over deliver and how do I make sure that I'm honest along the way? Yeah. And so from a standpoint of scaling from 1 to 10 to 100, it was not this, well, let me just put money into Meta or Facebook or Instagram and advertise our services. It was how do I build deep relationships with people? How do we provide a quality service? And then how does that organically become something more? And then also just seizing the opportunities that are in front of you. And so I think that what that did was that ended up having a huge effect on our referrals. And so for every client we had, we'd have 3 or 4 referrals out of it. I think the core root of WeCreate is not caring about my solutions. It's not caring about how good the videos are. It's not caring about how good the websites or the advertising or the paid media is. It's about understanding someone's problem so intimately, because people don't buy your solution, they buy relief to their problems. And I go back to this core of listening and core of getting clear. It's how do I listen to somebody so clearly and really understand what they're trying to do so I can provide that relief? And then that's value. So that's how you grow your business.
Yeah, that's really good. If you're speaking to a young entrepreneur, just starting to build their business, thinking about, okay, I got to start marketing my business. I got to get ready for growth. I guess, forget about the tools and tactics. What should that focus be on, regardless of the social media platform, or regardless of the tool they're using?
What we say is we want to care about 4 people more than they care about themselves. The first is your consumer. Who's buying your product? If you care more about the way that them, then they care about themselves and treat them the way they want to be treated, you're going to gain a lot of work. The next are the coworkers. How are you treating them? Are you treating them the way they want to be treated? And yes, you adhere to the same values and structure and accountability towards whatever the company is going towards, but also what are you doing to care for those people? And then that's strategic partners, who are the people in the room that are referring you business, that are doing something complementary to you. And then the fourth is actually your competition. I'm told that back in like early days of Greece and the Olympics, it's pretty simple. They used to, I think the word conspire was rooted in they'd be able to essentially do something with somebody. So if you're out running a mile, if you're running by yourself, how fast are you going versus running a verse with somebody next to you? And so you have to view competition as somebody who's running with you. And what they're doing is they're pushing you to be stronger, be better, to run faster. And so, but the truth is, if you care more about your consumer, your coworker, and your strategic partner, you never have to worry about your competition anyway. So if you're a young entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, think about those people. Who are your consumers? Not what your solution is. What is the pain they have? Next is your coworkers and who you're going to be doing this with. And then who are the partners that you want to bring along?
One thing we like to end on, we like to ask everyone when we sit down with, define innovation. What does innovation mean to you?
Wow. To me, innovation is doing something that you know is right, that might be novel, that when you do it, people might say you're crazy for doing it, but then they look back and say, you're crazy for not doing it.
Yeah, well said. No, Wade, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time to join the Spark series, and it's fun igniting a conversation with you.
Yeah, so thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Really enjoyable.